Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Korok Seed Master Mode Challenge. Today we have quite the runaround to collect the next seeds in our adventure, and that is going to begin with an instant transmission to a different part of the map. So let's go ahead and transition that way. In the meantime, if you enjoyed today's video, please make sure you leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more daily content. Now the first seed that we'll be looking at is going to be an apple puzzle. We haven't seen one of these in a minute, and it should be one of the last puzzles of this variety that we end up doing, mainly due to the fact that we will be moving into a much colder region of the map very soon, and apples simply don't grow there. But it's the exact same pattern that we've seen before, so we pluck the apples out of the branches of the tree, and we can then progress into the next seed, which is a short glide down into a little bog or flooded lake area. This is going to involve us moving a ball and chain into a well, and that works well enough for us today. But I will say that's not the last of that type of puzzle that we'll be seeing in today's video. The next seed is a short walk down in that same little bog area, and we end up finding a waterlogged Korok hiding underneath a rock. And you guessed it, as soon as we are finished talking with him, we've got to make sure that we pay him our respects and give him a little bit of shelter before moving on to the next seed. Now this one I was a little bit behind on and didn't feel like running after these fairy lights, especially during cover of day. It's pretty difficult to keep a tab on where these fairy lights run around to. But as long as you know their point of origin, or at least a point where they come back to, you'll be able to track them down when they complete their cycle, and you can easily grab it at that stage as well. Seed number 665 is going to be a little bit of a flower puzzle that we need to walk around, and I wasn't getting a good advantage on where that flower went, so upon taking a little bit of a higher ground outside of this tree stump, you see that it has migrated up to the edge of the stump over here, and as soon as we make our way to the top of this side of the stump, we can walk or fly our way across to here and continue that pattern on into the hollow bones or the hollow frame of this log. You know, the other one is down here. It was occulted a little bit by the diagram that we have over on the left-hand side of the screen, but at this stage we are just about done. We just need to glide down to the last flower in that sequence and collect that for our own. And that brings us to the infamous seed number 666. And this one actually gave me a little bit of trouble. As I said, we were not done viewing these magnesis puzzles here, and for whatever reason, I could not get this seed to go into the actual crevice in the tree stump that it needs to go into until I had adjusted my angle and moved it a third time. Probably because our vantage point is a lot lower, but maybe it's due to the number of the seed. Who really knows, if we're being honest. But the treachery does not actually stop there, because you're going to see something very odd with this one in particular. We lift that seed up, or that magnet ball up, we drop it right where it needs to be, and it, with a mind of its own, makes its way out of that tree stump. That's not an editing trick. That's not me being funny. That is genuinely what that magnet ball on the chain decided to do, is it lifted itself out of the tree stump and sat itself back down on the ground. Luckily, it stayed for the second time around, though, and that'll allow us to move on to seed number 668, which is going to be hiding in a little cave behind two of these little statues that generally have the apple or banana plates in front of them. But that will allow us to move along to the beach or riverside area here, where we have a couple of these magnet block patterns set up. This one's pretty simple. We just need to move the block from the left structure to the right structure, making them identical. And as that's the general pattern with that type of a puzzle. And we can now move on to the midway point of our video and adventure here in seed number 670, which is just a short walk around that same riverside from the last seed that we got. Maybe a 10 or 15 second walk to lift this rock up off the ground, collect the seed, and then swiftly drop the rock back down on top of this little guy's head. But it's the least we can do, right? Seed number 671 is actually going to be an archery puzzle. We haven't done one of these in a minute or two, but this one is pretty simple. The balloons don't pop in and out of existence. They do have a pattern that you can discern pretty easily as long as you're paying some attention to it. And all this really takes is making sure you hone in on what pattern they're going through and loose the arrow shortly before, as they're not a super distant balloon that we have to worry about or take heed of. And now that that has been resolved and taken care of, we can move along to the other side of the map. Yep, 2 instant transmissions in one video, and there was actually a little Korok hanging out there. The one thing that we need to do before we finish out this adventure here is we need to make our final stop at the last Sheikah Tower in the land, and that is the area that comprises the Castle of Hyrule. And as you can see here, our map is now fully completed. While making our way away from that tower, we ended up being tracked down a little bit by a guardian, and in case you didn't know, you can use trees to your advantage to get away from these guys because they're not the brightest, and as long as they can't make eye contact with you, well, they're going to be none the wiser. I probably could have gotten down off of this at this stage, but he does kind of hesitate and stop and peer around here. As he was scanning the other direction, I would have been fine, but I like to play things just a little bit safe whenever and wherever I can. And as we see him walk away into the distance and his legs clipping through the trunks of the trees there, we'll be able to move off of the trunk and to seed number 672, which is easy enough. The real challenge with this one, apart from the Guardian, is the fact that this seed is located on the other side of the river, or the adjoining puzzle is located on the other side of the river. So we'll make our way over that way. There are a couple of Hyrule hardy bass here, so we'll want to make sure that we grab them, as they could be very handy in a couple of dishes that we'll may or may not make at some point in the future. And then swimming our way over to the other riverbank here, really the only thing we'll need to do is grab that metal block out of this structure and move it to the other side of the river. That being said, it wasn't as easy as said as just to do it because of these Stalbokoblins that popped up. But instead of using some of our weapon durability, we were able to use the magnesis block itself to kind of knock into the Stokoblins and bop them on the noggin as well. So that worked relatively well and in our favor here. We'll go ahead and drop that block into the riverbed because we are at a reasonable depth where we will be able to retrieve that. If it were any larger body of water, such as a lake or anything else, I would have been a bit more hesitant, but rivers, I'm not too concerned about being able to retrieve that. So with sliding this block right into the adjoining space there, and thus making it identical to the formation on the other side of the river, we are in a really good spot to continue on from this point and go collect seed number 673, which this one was pretty simple. There's just an acorn hanging out on the tree trunk. We wanted to grab that rugged rhino beetle before blasting the acorn because that certainly would have killed the poor insect. I'm sure that it dies anyway when we put it in our knapsack, but it was a slightly more humane thing to do than to take it out with a gratuitous show of violence. Moving along to seed number 674, we have a small little rock hanging on top of a fountain near Hyrule Castle in the Forest Parade grounds, I believe. And as soon as we have this seed collected, we're going to want to get out and get away because this is very heavily patrolled by the Guardians. So now that we're in a safer area, we'll want to leap into the ring of lily pads here within this tree stump, and that gets us seed number 675 of our overall adventure. And we can then glide down from that point to a lower, more riverside area and catch the fairy lights there. As you do move faster through the air as you do on foot, you can maybe target yourself directly into the path of those fairy lights and grab them there. We have another archery puzzle today. You're getting 2 in this video, and the tricky shot here does end up being the balloon that's actually hiding inside the log. And the trouble with that is you do lose the balloons if you get too far away from that pinwheel, but we were able to sneak around and grab it with another arrow shot, though there is the possibility that we could have burst that balloon with a bomb as well. It was still attainable with our bow and arrow. We can now move off of the top of this stump and into the very small remains of the stump in the same general area, pick up a rock there. And this is sadly the second occasion in which we have not been able to offer of our humble protection back to these Koroks by dropping the rock back on top of them because, well, this guy's flying around instead of hanging out on the ground. But seed number 679 is going to involve a swift climb up this dead tree within a tree stump. So that's a very unique placement there. And as soon as we are at the precipice in the canopy of that tree, we can grab the seed from this location and then jump down and glide our way to the final place of this Korok that is going to be the end of our adventure, at least for today, as we find ourselves face to face with Korok seed number 680 hanging out in this hollow log. But like I said, that's going to do it for today. So if you enjoyed today's video, please feel free to leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe for more daily content, and we'll see you tomorrow with another Ultimate Alliance 3 video. Thanks for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.